Be me, Ethan, 35, spent the last decade deep in the guts of corporate systems, a systems architect. Specifically, the guy who builds and maintains the compliance framework for all financial transactions at a sprawling tech company. Think digital bouncer, making sure every penny goes where it's supposed to and gets documented 100 times. I love my job. It's meticulous. It's challenging. It's vital. I knew every line of code, every backdoor, every loophole our systems had, and crucially, how to close them. My reputation was quiet but solid. I built the damn fortress. Be not me, Chad, nephew of the CEO, 30, recently parachuted in as VP of Strategic Innovations, a role that seemed specifically designed to give him a fancy title and minimal actual responsibility. He had an MBA, a flashy watch, and a perpetual smirk. Chad's first act within a week of arriving was to unilaterally reallocate budget from my team's critical security upgrade project directly into his Synergy Lab, an initiative that sounded like a fever dream conjured from buzzwords and venture capital brochures. I watched the numbers shift on my dashboard, a direct hit, a declaration of war, unspoken but clear. The first few weeks were a parade of increasingly audacious moves. Chad had an uncanny ability to take credit for other people's work. My team had just finished a massive overhaul of our legacy payment processing system, speeding up transactions by 15% and cutting downtime by 30%. It was months of blood, sweat, and caffeine. Chad presented it to the board as his vision for agile finance, showing slides with his name on them, detailing his revolutionary approach. He even had the gall to mention a small contribution from the engineering team. My team, a small contribution. The fury was a cold, quiet thing, simmering just beneath the surface. I smiled at him in the hallway, though. Always smile. Then came the AI-driven data harmonization initiative. This was Chad's brainchild, a completely redundant, incredibly expensive project designed to synthesize disparate data streams that were already perfectly harmonized by systems I designed years ago. He demanded access to our most sensitive financial data, claiming his AI needed raw input. I pushed back, citing compliance protocols. He went straight to his uncle, the CEO, and within an hour, I had an email from upper management ordering me to grant Chad full access, effective immediately, without impediment. The email also included a passive-aggressive suggestion that I collaborate more openly. I gave him access to a sandboxed, read-only version of the data, stripped of any truly sensitive PII or real-time feeds. He never noticed. He was too busy presenting pretty charts generated by his team. The entitlement grew. Chad started holding mandatory ideation sessions for his Synergy Lab, pulling key engineers from my team for hours, sometimes days at a time. This severely impacted our project timelines. When I formally raised concerns about resource drain, Chad dismissed it. "Your team needs to learn to innovate, Ethan. They're stuck in the past." He laughed, a high-pitched, insincere sound. The delays mounted. The CEO, pressured by Chad's glossy reports, started asking questions about my team's lack of agility. I was getting hit from all sides. Chad was actively weakening my fortress, brick by brick, from the inside. One afternoon, Chad called me into his office. He was lounging, feet up on his pristine glass desk. "Ethan," he began, not looking at me, "I need you to sign off on something. A budget reallocation for Project Chimera." Project Chimera was another one of his opaque innovation projects, bleeding money with no clear deliverables. He slid a tablet across the desk. It was an internal transfer request for $3 million from our R&D contingency, fund directly to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. A shell company that, a quick glance at the beneficiary details showed, was controlled by a proxy for Chad himself. It was a bald-faced attempt at embezzlement, a direct funneling of company funds into his personal accounts. I stared at the document. This wasn't just taking credit or diverting resources. This was a felony, and he wanted me to authorize it. "Chad," I said, my voice dangerously calm. This is highly irregular. It bypasses several layers of approval and the beneficiary. It's not an approved vendor. He finally looked at me, a condescending smirk on his face. Oh, it's approved, Ethan. My uncle signed off on the concept. Just needs your technical green light. Don't be difficult, it's a formality. Part of my budget. He leaned forward, dropping the smirk for a moment. Sign it, or I'll make sure your next performance review has some severe adjustments. Maybe your security projects aren't as vital as you think. There are always other architects, Ethan. That was the line, my livelihood, my reputation, my decades of meticulous work, all threatened by this entitled parasite. My blood ran cold, then hot. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time he saw a glimmer of something in my eyes that gave him pause. I smiled. Of course, Chad. Just let me pull up the proper internal compliance overlay for this specific type of transaction. It's a new protocol. We want to ensure everything is above board, don't we? He waved a dismissive hand. Whatever, just make it happen. I nodded, took the tablet, and walked out. The smirk returned to his face as the door closed. He had no idea he had just signed his own death warrant. I didn't just block the transaction. That would have been too simple, too quick. I spent the next 3 months working 2 full-time jobs. My visible job, where I dutifully oversaw my team, managed expectations, and occasionally provided Chad with carefully sanitized reports that supported his narrative of innovation. My second job, my real job, was constructing his downfall. I started by building a shadow system within our compliance framework, a series of nested logic bombs, hidden triggers, and silent data loggers that would activate only when specific conditions were met. Chad's activities had created a unique fingerprint, and I designed my traps to recognize it. I revisited every system Chad had been granted read-only access to. His AI-driven data harmonization initiative. What he didn't realize was that while I gave him filtered data, the system was configured to log his queries. Every search term, every data request, every attempt to cross-reference information was quietly being recorded. This gave me a precise map of what he was trying to hide and what he was trying to find. I also exploited a long-standing, obscure loophole in our legacy expense reporting system, a flaw I'd known about for years but had deliberately left unpatched, knowing it could someday be useful. It allowed a user with high-level access to subtly misattribute expenditures without triggering immediate red flags in standard audit trails, as long as the total budget lines balanced out. Chad was using it for his lavish Synergy Lab expenses, inflating costs and skimming the difference. I now had irrefutable proof tied to his login. I meticulously gathered evidence, emails from Chad to his shell company, discussing payment schedules and profit sharing, recordings of our meeting, legally obtained through internal company policy that allowed recording of meetings involving financial approvals, timestamped logs of all his unauthorized data access attempts. I even managed to find a trail leading from his personal bank account to a series of anonymous cryptocurrency wallets, where he was slowly funneling smaller amounts of company funds, disguised as software licenses for his AI. My plan was intricate, a spider web of data points designed to ensnare him completely, leaving no avenue for escape. The climax arrived during the quarterly board meeting. Chad was scheduled to present the remarkable success of his innovation projects, requesting another significant budget increase. I was there, ostensibly as a technical consultant to answer any system-related questions. He stood at the podium, basking in the glow of the projection screen, displaying his glossy charts and inflated metrics. And as you can see, he beamed, Project Chimera is exceeding all expectations, poised to deliver unparalleled market disruption. He then brought up the request for the $3 million, the exact amount he'd tried to embezzle through me. With Ethan's invaluable technical assistance, he added, with a dismissive nod in my direction, we've streamlined the final approval process. A board member, a tough, older woman named Miss Davies, who had always viewed Chad with suspicion, raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Chad, I understood Project Chimera was still in its early stages. What exactly is this $3 million for?" Chad's smirk faltered for a microsecond. "Operational overhead, Miss Davies. Strategic resource acquisition." Miss Davies turned to me. "Ethan, can you elaborate on this streamlined approval process?" This was my cue. I stood up, my voice calm, clear, and perfectly modulated. "Certainly, Miss Davies. I believe Mr. Chad is referring to a specific transaction request that recently passed through my department. A request for $3 million transferred directly to a non-corporate entity, with Mr. Chad as the sole beneficial owner." The room went silent. Chad's face drained of color. "What are you talking about, Ethan?" he sputtered, forcing a laugh. "That's completely false. That transaction was for critical external vendor payments." I walked over to the main display, pulling up my own console. "Actually, Mr. Chad, the transaction details clearly indicate otherwise. Here, allow me to show you the full audit trail." On the screen, I projected the internal transfer request, complete with Chad's signature, his proxy's details, and the clear destination in the Cayman Islands. "This transaction," I continued, "was initiated by Mr. Chad, flagged by our system as high risk, and requires multiple layers of human approval. Mr. Chad attempted to secure my authorization by bypassing several of these layers." Chad lunged forward. "This is a fabrication. He's trying to sabotage me." "Sabotage, Mr. Chad," I countered, calm as ever. "Or merely reporting findings. Our systems also logged every instance of unauthorized data access from your AI-driven data harmonization initiative, showing repeated attempts to obscure financial trails. Here, the raw query logs. And here, the detailed breakdown of the $3 million you diverted from R&D-O. And these are the expenses from your Synergy lab, including luxury car rentals and a personal chef, all disguised as software licenses through the legacy loophole you so cleverly exploited." I showed the board irrefutable proof. His emails, the payment records, the crypto wallet transfers, all interlinked. Chad stood there, mouth agape, utterly broken. The room was a whirlwind of hushed gasps and furious whispers, his arrogance shattered into a million pieces. The fallout was swift and devastating. Chad was immediately suspended, escorted out of the building by corporate security. His uncle, the CEO, looked utterly betrayed, his face a mask of furious disappointment. The internal investigation, spearheaded by Miss Davies, confirmed every single detail I had provided. The embezzlement, the fraudulent expense reports, the attempts to frame me and my team. The scale of the fraud was far greater than even I had initially uncovered. Chad was fired within 24 hours. His reputation, in a company town where everyone knew everyone, was utterly destroyed. Legal proceedings were initiated not just by the company but also by the shareholders. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks. Chad's assets are frozen. The company is pursuing criminal charges, not just civil. Apparently, my dossier was so airtight, and the paper trail so meticulously laid, that even his high-powered lawyers are struggling to find a defense. His uncle, the CEO, has issued a public apology to the entire company for Chad's actions. A new compliance task force has been formed, and guess who's been asked to lead it? That's right. I've been promoted to Chief Compliance Officer. My fortress just got a whole lot bigger. Update 2. 6 weeks later, Chad tried to flee the country. Airport security flagged him and he was apprehended. Turns out, he'd already drained a significant portion of his personal wealth, trying to hide it offshore. The sheer panic in his eyes, caught on the news footage, was deeply satisfying. The company has since recovered most of the embezzled funds thanks to my extensive tracking. My team, the one Chad tried to dismantle, has been fully funded and expanded. We're building even more robust systems now, and for the first time I feel truly valued. Update 3. 3 months out. Chad was sentenced. 5 years in federal prison, plus restitution payments that will haunt him for the rest of his life. He lost everything: his connections, his wealth, his freedom. They say he blamed me in court, muttering something about a vendetta. He was right. It was a vendetta, and it was glorious. My last act in the process was to permanently close that obscure legacy expense reporting loophole. I wouldn't want anyone else to suffer the temptation. Some bastards never learn, but at least this one got a front row seat to his own meticulously engineered destruction.